So what I would like to do is to introduce quickly the theme of the exhibition for those of you that haven't been at ISO. And also I will talk for our director, Jennifer Chidek, cannot be here with us tonight, a little bit about how you translate themes into a visual experience for the public. I should start off by saying the way I thought about this exhibition was really sort of in a didactic way. The exhibition was targeting, first of all, the general public. So I really wanted to give them an overview of ancient geography, which of course is map, but it's not only maps. And in order to do that, of course, I had to rely heavily on Renaissance manuscript because, as you probably all well know, there are basically no extant maps of the ancient world, and there is a section of the exhibition that address this and address what is a map and what we have left from antiquity. So the exhibition, on the one hand, as I said, tried to explain ancient geography in its broader term, but also address the fact that we know about ancient geography through the voice of the ancient themselves, mostly from treatises. But then we understand most of ancient geography because of the work of the Renaissance, and specifically in the exhibition we are looking at the 16th and the 17th century. With of course, one of the most treasured objects in the exhibition being of the 1450s. So this idea of these centuries as central for the rediscovery, but also their interpretation of ancient geography. And I would say also the visualization of ancient geography, so that most of the maps that we have in mind, the speaker, in terms of ancient geography, are indeed those that were made by a Renaissance map maker looking back at ancient treatises, and they're still influencing our understanding of ancient geography. And then, of course, one section of the exhibition, which is equally important, is the one that is visible on the web. So I would like to thank Tom Elliott, which is the director of our digital program at ISO. They really put together a splendid website where people understand what are contemporary scholars doing in order to further our knowledge of ancient geography. And so also how technology is playing in this, if you want, second rediscovery of ancient geography. And I think also we wanted to have the public to relate to ancient geography and understand how this last decade we have been experiencing our own rediscovery of geography and our own rediscovery of what mapping is. And you know, the studies in modern geography are really also proving this, that there is fortunately a renaissance in our modern interest for a geography, ancient and not. Very briefly, the way in which the exhibition is organized is addressing, as I said, different aspects of geography. It's not only maps. One of which is trying to explain to the public what the ancient intellectuals thought about geography. And so we are presenting the theories of the geographers, of the cosmographers, and of the map makers of antiquity, once again through the eyes of the Renaissance. And so here you have just three examples of the illumination that you would find in some of the manuscript. We are moving from, of course, the universe, and the idea of the geocentric concept of the universe. Then we are bringing our public down to Earth, so the idea of the sphere and how that was divided, the continents, and so on and so forth. And then we're still zooming in, of course, with the oikumene, and how that was represented. And I forgot to say, and I should have said at the beginning, that I would like to thank all the institutions, the New York institution that participated in the exhibition and then made these loans possible. They were really splendid, and all of them said yes right away, so which is not always the case when you're preparing a show. Yes, I did it. But as I say, we also wanted to give the sense to the public that we're not just intellectuals they were dealing with geography in antiquity, but that the geography was a conception that somewhat percolated down to all levels of society, even those that were illiterate. And as you know, the percentage of literacy in antiquity was very, very little. So we wanted to investigate what the society at large understood about geography and what were the elements that constituted the common shared geographic knowledge. And so we thought one efficient way of dealing with this is use coins. So if you come to the exhibition, there will be a small case where we have a selection of Roman coins. Of course, all of them show the symbol of the terrestrial globe and how this was played for political propaganda. Starting clearly at the end of the Republic, but then pretty much continuing all the way through the history of the Roman Empire. And so how geography, if you want, is used for convey specific messages, in this case, clearly the potency of the emperor, or, you know, the idea that the emperor is controlling the world, and therefore the Romans are controlling the world. On a very basic level, it tells us that all Roman citizens were able to understand the message on the coins, and so at least they had as a common shared knowledge that the earth was indeed a sphere. That was not something that was ever placed in doubt, neither by the geographer, but nor by the common people. Of course, we also wanted to give an idea to the public of who the agrimensores were and what was their work, the importance of surveying and dividing the land in antiquity, and how this impacted the landscape, and through the impact on the landscape, impacted the life of the individuals, not only defining the size of the plot, but you know, also deciding how much taxes a guy had to pay on a specific plot of land, and changing, as a matter of fact, the landscape of most of Europe. And I'm from northern Italy, and I always say that, you know, the way in which the centuria were divided is pretty much the same way in which the landscape is divided today. So if you want, is a long-term impact on geographical features. And then we wanted to somewhat put in discussion the real concept, the very concept of a map. So what is a map? Is a map only a two-dimensional scaled representation of space, or any representation of space with symbol on it? So symbols that are not strictly topographical. So we have two cases that are somewhat in conversation, one with the other. In one, we have 3 edition of the Notitia Dignitatum, and therefore the use of secular geography, if you want. So here you have the page that is illustrating Egypt, as you can clearly see, with the Nile that means slightly tilted east-west, then the pyramids, and all the symbol of the city that had somewhat importance for the late Roman Empire. And then we confronted with what we can call divine geography, so the Beatus of Liebana, commentary of the Apocalypse, and the map of the world, where, of course, now the symbols are those related to the Old and the New Testament. And so the argument that we're trying to make are these maps? Or maps, as I said, are only faithful representation, whatever faithful means. And finally, of course, there is imaginary geography, which played an essential role both in antiquity but as well as in the Renaissance. And to prove it, of course, we have here the vignettes of the strange people from the Nuremberg Chronicle that are taken directly from the description of Pliny. And this idea that the population that are living at the fringes of the known world becomes somewhat mysterious, as is the landscape. So this association between strange location and strange individuals. And as I said, if you come at the Institute to see the exhibition, in the first gallery you will find the Pointinger map, and you can actually play with it online, and therefore, as I said, see how technology is enhancing our knowledge of ancient geography. In terms of how then we display this, and this is Jennifer would have said it more eloquently, but you're stuck with my Italian accent and you're gonna live with it. The way we usually try to put together an exhibition at ISO, considering that we have quite a small space, is really to make each object count. So you will never come to our show and see 500 objects. You will see maybe 150, or in this case, 40 objects. But we're really trying to have the public to think at the larger themes that each of them represents. So, for example, I didn't even mention it, but in the foyer, we have a fragment of the Tabula Iliaca, to show how also geographical and topographical spaces were represented in antiquity, in this case specifically the history, of course, from the Iliad. And then for every exhibition, we ask our designer to sort of interpret the themes that we want to talk about, and then try to find a space for this theme, using the gallery in any exhibition in a different way and using different cases. Of course, for this show, as I said, we had the intellectuals, and so we placed them over here, and the public would come here and therefore, somewhat follow the way in which we have envisioned the show. Then it would be confronted with the coins over here, and then it would move to the agrimensores, the secular and the divine geography, and then would end up with the imaginary geography, with the idea that everything that is imaginary is at the periphery. And so we tried also to use the room to suggest that that's the periphery. Right? So the designer liked to play with that. And this is a look of how the two galleries appear right now. So this is the smaller gallery, and you have, of course, the Pointinger map placed over here. And we were very fortunate to have an eye scan of each leaf. And therefore, we could reconstruct the whole artifact, which is over 23 feet long. And this is important because then people can really sort of experience the full extent of this parchment. And of course, then the visitor can sit down and you can play with our website and get as much information as they want. And this is a look of the second gallery where all the objects are located. Special cases were made for this exhibition. We do have an inventory, but we always try to enhance it according to the object that we have to show. So in this case, we were confronted with the problem of many manuscripts. And so what is the best way for us to display them? So this is the solution that we adopted for the Ptolemy, for example. We decided that we wanted a very archival looking cases so that the people would feel like coming in and looking at a desk. And also we wanted to have, apart from our usual banners, we wanted to have quotes from the different works of art. So if you come, you will see that there are quotes both in the bigger gallery, but also in the smaller one. And this would be how the cases look like for larger number of manuscripts into one. So you really have this sense that you're looking at somewhat on a desk, and this is totally an effect that the designer was going for. The color itself is chosen based on the Oronce Finet manuscript from Harvard, so this green that somewhat embodies the earth, and so that's where the designer was, trying to get to. And from a very basic point of view, the idea of having the cases also displayed this way is to somewhat contrast this strong horizontal feeling of the room, because of course all the cases that are manuscript are very horizontal. So the idea of having the vessel on a side and on this higher vertical cases somewhat helped to overcome this feeling otherwise of entering just in a library, which is something that we were not interested in doing.